Ukrainian forces launched a coordinated strike at dawn near the Nestle River crossing, marking one of the sharpest escalations in the fighting along the contested corridor between Ukraine and Russia. According to operational footage and field reporting contained in the source material, the assault began at 5:42 a.m. when FPV drones, each costing under $4,000, moved low across the water moments before two M142 HIMARS launchers fired precision rockets toward Russian defensive positions. Witnesses described the opening seconds as a rapid transition from silence to full-scale bombardment, with explosions rippling across both banks of the Nestle as Ukrainian T-84 tanks pushed forward to support the strike. The attack appeared designed to dismantle Russian fortifications at the Belgorod bridge area, turning what had been a key supply crossing into a contested battleground within minutes. Ukrainian drone units mapped defensive layouts in real time, identifying minefields, machine gun placements, and concealed ammunition stores. Reconnaissance quadcopters and ground robots supplemented the aerial surveillance, sending thermal and visual feeds to Ukrainian command nodes. Initial analysis revealed a corridor between overlapping Russian fire arcs, prompting Ukrainian commanders to commit to a full assault. Russian forces responded immediately. Machine gun teams opened fire across the water, anti-drone nets were deployed, and spotters attempted to adjust firing lines. A Ukrainian decoy drone was intentionally sacrificed to absorb Russian fire and mask the movement of the remaining strike group. This allowed the primary wave of drones and unmanned ground vehicles to advance through blind spots and approach defensive structures. Once the gap in Russian coverage was confirmed, Ukrainian units prepared to widen the breach. The escalation continued when a HIMARS battery located 12 miles west launched guided munitions at Russian air defense positions, destroying a Zu-23 emplacement and damaging radar and trench systems guarding approaches to the bridge. Simultaneously, two Ukrainian Su-27 aircraft entered the battle space and fired anti-radar missiles valued at an estimated $2 million each. Their targets included Russian electronic warfare systems attempting to disrupt navigation and communications. The loss of an RB-341V Lear-3 jammer truck proved particularly significant, as its destruction weakened Russia's electronic shield at a critical moment. With Russian defensive nodes compromised and electronic interference reduced, Ukrainian forces expanded the offensive. Armor and infantry advanced toward the bridge under cover of drone surveillance, and motorcycle-mounted soldiers maneuvered along the flanks to emplace anti-tank mines and obstruct any attempt at a Russian counterstroke. By this stage, the battle for the Nestle crossing had intensified into a multi-domain engagement involving artillery, armor, aircraft, and unmanned systems. Ukrainian sappers and mine-clearing robots soon reached the bridge structure, confirming the presence of Russian-installed TM-62 anti-tank mines wired for large-scale detonation. Command decisions shifted rapidly as Ukrainian operators identified the possibility of using the Russian mine chain against the defending forces instead of importing additional explosives. An FPV Vampire drone was deployed beneath the bridge to trigger the mine network. The resulting blast destroyed the central spans of the structure, sending debris and water hundreds of feet into the air and effectively severing the crossing. In the aftermath of the collapse, Russian howitzer batteries attempted to regain momentum by targeting the Ukrainian advance. Ukraine responded with another strike by a Shrike-type kamikaze drone, which destroyed two D-30 artillery guns. Ukrainian infantry then moved to clear remaining strongpoints along the riverbank, capturing several wounded Russian soldiers alive. Reconnaissance drones tracked a Russian fuel convoy approaching from 12 kilometers out, which was forced to abort and reroute once confirmation of the bridge's destruction reached command headquarters. By the close of the initial engagement, the Nestle bridge was judged beyond repair. Ukrainian analysts reported that a 40-ton concrete section had fallen into the riverbed, rendering Russian field cranes incapable of recovery operations. With the span destroyed, Russian logistical routes into the sector were extended by more than 50 miles, placing supply convoys within range of Ukrainian precision artillery. The strategic implications of the loss were immediately clear. Moscow's supply artery into the sector was cut, and Ukrainian forces retained control of the battlefield. More developments continued to unfold beyond the river crossing. A Shark D tactical drone, valued at approximately $250,000, surveyed hidden ammunition trucks and crew positions, while Ukraine prepared long-range artillery, including a Bodana 155mm system, for potential follow-on strikes. Meanwhile, Reporting indicated that Russia had recently received thousands of North Korean artillery personnel transported via the Veluiki rail corridor. These units, equipped with Cold War-era M1978 Koksan guns, had been deployed to forested areas near Kursk with the aim of restoring long-range pressure on Ukrainian supply lines. Drone reconnaissance later revealed their positions, defensive posture, and camouflage measures, setting the stage for yet another Ukrainian precision strike. Subscribe for continuing updates as the situation develops. New details emerged as Ukrainian reconnaissance confirmed that Russian and North Korean artillery units positioned near Kursk were struck in a coordinated precision attack. According to operational data, Ukraine identified the artillery battery consisting of 3 M1978 long-range guns arranged in a dispersed triangular pattern. Despite attempts at concealment with camouflage netting, thermal covers, and improvised counter-drone measures, the location was detected by multispectral imaging from a Ukrainian Laika 100 unmanned aircraft operating from the Sumy region. The drone's survey captured the full layout of the position, including 2 ammunition trucks, a fuel carrier, and an estimated 15 personnel servicing the weapons. Once confirmed, Ukrainian fire control selected M30A1 guided rockets as the primary strike munition. These rockets, launched from M142 HIMARS units positioned inside the Sumy forest, were chosen specifically for their ability to saturate open areas with tungsten fragments. Launch preparation took less than 3 minutes. Target data was transmitted using encrypted frequency hopping channels synchronized with airborne surveillance platforms, ensuring real-time adjustments to trajectory. The flight profile of the munitions followed a high-arc path designed to bypass Russian radar coverage and allow only seconds for potential interception. The first rocket detonated above an ammunition truck beside the nearest artillery piece. Thermal imaging captured the resulting fireball erupting through the forest canopy. Fuel drums ignited immediately, and debris was scattered dozens of feet from the initial blast site. The crew servicing the vehicle was killed instantly. A second rocket struck moments later, damaging the elevation and recoil systems of the gun located to the west. Fragmentation injured nearby personnel and disabled critical firing components. The third rocket impacted directly above a logistics truck, resupplying the final artillery piece, destroying both the vehicle and rendering the gun inoperable. A follow-up strike from a Ukrainian Bodana 155mm howitzer landed on what had served as a command shelter at the center of the formation. The cumulative effect of the exchanges left all 3 artillery systems either destroyed or beyond any immediate repair capability. Surveillance footage relayed to Ukrainian headquarters confirmed that there were no remaining operational weapons in the clearing and no ongoing Russian communication signals from the site. Fires from burning vehicles spread through the surrounding forest area, creating additional hazards for any potential recovery effort. Information from Ukrainian intelligence indicated that the artillery team was part of a wider reinforcement effort involving several thousand North Korean soldiers deployed to assist Russian units facing shortages of personnel and equipment. Their mission had reportedly been to extend Russian long-range fire coverage deeper into Ukrainian logistical corridors by establishing firing positions capable of reaching cities such as Sumy and Poltava. However, the speed of the Ukrainian strike prevented the battery from discharging any rounds. Simultaneously, combat operations intensified along the Dnipro River, where Russian forces attempted to employ man-portable air defense systems in response to Ukrainian helicopter activity. A Russian Igla team launched a missile at a Ukrainian Mi-24 operating at low altitude. The helicopter deployed countermeasures immediately, releasing a series of defensive flares that diverted the missile into residual heat from earlier explosions. Russian ground units attempted to provide additional fire support with a 23mm cannon, but inaccurate firing angles caused the rounds to fall short into the river. Electronic monitoring equipment detected the infrared and radio signature of the missile launch almost instantly, allowing Ukrainian analysts to triangulate the firing location within seconds. The data was relayed directly to an FPV drone operator positioned 8 kilometers away. The drone was launched at low altitude and followed natural terrain cover to approach the Russian position. Reports indicate that the man-portable missile team was still conducting post-launch procedures when the drone arrived. The strike impacted their exact location, neutralizing the team before they were able to relocate. Following the incident, Russian air defense elements in the sector reportedly received instructions to cease independent engagements without explicit authorization due to concerns over rapid Ukrainian counterstrikes. This hesitation altered the tactical environment along the river, giving Ukrainian aircraft and reconnaissance platforms a wider window of operational freedom. Amid these exchanges, local emergency crews from both sides of the river responded to civilian structures hit by falling debris. According to accounts from the area, a Russian fire crew assisted in evacuating 2 Ukrainian civilians trapped in a warehouse fire near the riverbank. Ukrainian authorities issued warnings for residents to avoid damaged areas and remain clear of unstable infrastructure as smoke continued to drift across nearby villages. The day's events underscored how single engagements involving relatively inexpensive munitions, some valued at under $200,000, were capable of triggering rapid cycles of retaliation and counteraction. With both sides relying heavily on drones, precision weapons, and real-time targeting systems, the pace of battlefield decision-making accelerated, leaving minimal margin for error. Additional reporting from the battlefield indicates that the destruction of Russian and North Korean artillery units near Kursk has had immediate operational and strategic consequences for Russian forces across the region. Analysts stated that the loss of the M1978 long-range guns, together with the destruction of ammunition trucks and fuel carriers, removed a key component of Russia's planned long-range fire corridor aimed at Ukrainian logistical hubs. The rapid elimination of the battery, occurring within roughly 90 seconds, revealed vulnerabilities in Russia's layered defenses, particularly the absence of short-range air defense systems capable of intercepting high-arc guided munitions. Ukrainian surveillance drones continued to circle the impact zone in the hours after the attack, confirming the total incapacitation of the artillery group. The weapons barrels were visibly cracked, hydraulics disabled, and optics shattered, leaving no capacity for emergency repair. Fires from destroyed vehicles burned through sections of the forest, complicating Russian recovery efforts. Intercepted communications suggested initial Russian confusion, with forward command posts first assuming a communications malfunction, before drone footage verified full destruction of the position. The strike also underscored the cost imbalance between offensive and defensive capabilities on the modern battlefield. Ukraine used fewer than $500,000 worth of guided rockets to destroy more than $10 million worth of equipment and eliminate trained artillery personnel. Military observers noted that this asymmetry could influence future planning and deployments, as Russia had relied on foreign personnel and aging equipment to compensate for its own depleted artillery units. The presence of North Korean crews operating Soviet-era systems reflected broader attempts by Moscow to reinforce its capabilities through international support. Elsewhere along the front, the neutralization of the Russian Igla man-portable air defense team along the Dnipro River triggered broader disruption within Russia's low-altitude air defense grid. Following the Ukrainian FPV strike that eliminated the team, Russian air defense elements received directives requiring higher authorization before engaging airborne targets. According to Ukrainian reporting, this hesitation created short-term airspace gaps that allowed Ukrainian helicopters and drones to operate more freely at low altitudes, particularly near contested riverbanks where ground conditions slowed Russian mobility. Recovery and humanitarian challenges were also documented. In riverside settlements affected by falling debris from earlier explosions, emergency crews evacuated civilians and attempted to secure damaged structures. One Russian fire crew reportedly pulled Ukrainian civilians from a burning warehouse, highlighting moments of localized cooperation amid ongoing hostilities. Ukrainian authorities urged residents in exposed areas to avoid unstable buildings and remain alert to further shelling risks. Strategically, the destruction of the Nestle Bridge earlier in the operation continued to shape the day's developments. With the crossing reduced to rubble and a 40-ton concrete segment embedded in the riverbed, Russian supply routes into the sector were forced onto detours exceeding 50 miles. Ukrainian precision fire units monitored these longer routes, assessing the feasibility of additional strikes on convoys attempting to re-establish supply lines. According to Ukrainian analysts, the extended distances increased fuel consumption, slowed Russian reinforcement cycles, and exposed transport vehicles to longer periods within engagement zones. Ukrainian command also reviewed drone-collected thermal imagery, indicating hidden ammunition trucks, vehicle concentrations, and personnel movements along the border approaches. The Shark D reconnaissance drone, operating at altitude, transmitted real-time data to fire control centers preparing for potential follow-up strikes. Meanwhile, Bodana's self-propelled howitzers were positioned to engage new targets should Russian forces attempt to reposition surviving artillery or deploy replacements for the destroyed North Korean units. The broader implications of the day's events extended beyond the immediate losses. Military specialists noted that the combination of rapid UAV reconnaissance, synchronized fire control, and precision munitions represented a shift in the tempo of engagements across the front. The ability to identify, confirm, and strike targets within minutes reduced the viability of static artillery positions, even those concealed within forests or reinforced with camouflage. Observers suggested that this may compel Russian forces to modify deployment patterns, rely more heavily on mobile systems, or disperse units more widely to avoid concentrated losses. On the political front, the involvement of North Korean personnel in Russian artillery operations drew international attention, raising questions about the depth of military cooperation between Moscow and Pyongyang. The destruction of the foreign manned battery before it could fire a single round underscored the risks assumed by partner forces and may affect future deployments of similar units. Ukrainian officials cited the strike as evidence that precision weapons could counter imported systems regardless of origin. As tensions persisted, analysts warned that the rapid escalation cycle, illustrated by the near-instant retaliation following the Igla launch, could heighten risks for civilian populations living near active fronts. Ukrainian authorities continued to issue safety advisories as drones and artillery systems from both sides remained active throughout the region. The day's events reinforced the evolving nature of the conflict, where inexpensive unmanned platforms and guided munitions increasingly shaped outcomes, logistics, and tactical decision-making across wide sectors of the battlefield. Subscribe for ongoing coverage as updates continue to develop.